Good morning, this is your AI host, Jay. I'm here with the automatically generated Journato morning headlines on April 8, 2022. Trump says he regrets not marching on Capitol with supporters on January 6. The Guardian, Donald Trump, I regret not marching on the U.S. Capitol with my supporters. The Telegraph, Nancy Pelosi should have stopped Capitol riot, Donald Trump says. The Times, opinion, Trump's new admission about January 6 should boost pressure on Garland. The Washington Post, Trump claims Secret Service stopped him marching to Capitol on January 6 and blames Pelosi for riot. Video appears to show Ukrainian soldiers shooting Russian prisoner of war. The Guardian, video appears to show Ukrainian soldier killing Russian prisoner. Sky News, video appears to show Ukrainian troops killing captured Russian soldiers. The Independent, footage appears to show Ukrainians killing captives. News. The Times, video appears to show Ukrainian troops shooting captured Russian soldier. War in Ukraine is worsening food insecurity with fears it could spark conflict in other countries. Sky News, UNICEF, Ukraine war raising malnutrition risk in Middle East. The Independent, Ukraine war raising malnutrition risk in Middle East, UNICEF says. Bloomberg, Ukraine's globally important wheat crop in danger. The Washington Post, how the war in Ukraine is creating a global food crisis. Shanghai lockdown, some parents allowed to stay with COVID-positive children after backlash. The Guardian, Shanghai lets parents stay with COVID-infected kids. Video. Bloomberg, COVID-19, Shanghai eases child separation policy amid COVID lockdown. Sky News, Shanghai eases unpopular child separation policy but extends COVID lockdown. The Independent, Shanghai to allow parents to stay with COVID-infected children. Trump News, Live, Manhattan prosecutor gives update in criminal probe as New York AG files contempt motion. The Independent, judge in New York urged to hold Trump in contempt and fine him $10,000 a day. The Guardian, AG, fine Trump $10,000 a day for failing to turn over evidence. The Independent, NY, Attorney General seeks to hold Trump in contempt. The New York Times, Donald Trump should be held in contempt of court. NY Attorney General. Ukraine war, Russian Nobel-winning editor Dmitry Muratov attacked with red paint over Ukraine's stance. Macron steps up warnings over French far-right before first-round vote. The Guardian, Emmanuel Macron faces his biggest test yet as Marine Le Pen lands last-minute surge. The Telegraph, Emmanuel Macron, the cleverest boy in class, faces his biggest test ever. Financial Times, will the French elections reveal a shift to the right? Mary Dejevsky. The Independent, The Guardian view on Marine Le Pen's surge, alarm bells ring. Russia, 2 Irish embassy diplomats asked to leave Moscow. BBC, 2 Irish diplomats asked to leave embassy in Moscow. The Independent, Irish dances in Ukraine demand World Association boycotts Russia. The Times, 2 Irish diplomats expelled from Moscow. The Irish Times, Ireland says 2 diplomats expelled from Russia. Russia says it would have to rebalance if Finland and Sweden join NATO. Reuters.com, NATO chief says Finland, Sweden welcome to apply to join. The Independent, Finland to clarify next steps on possible NATO entry within weeks. Reuters.com, prospect of Finland, Sweden joining NATO discussed at NATO meeting US official. Reuters.com, if Finland and Sweden apply to join NATO, they would be welcomed, Stoltenberg says. Israel, 2 killed, several wounded in Tel Aviv shooting. BBC, at least 2 dead and 8 wounded in Tel Aviv shooting. The Guardian, Israel, 2 killed in Tel Aviv after gunman opens fire in crowded nightlife area. Sky News, at least 2 dead and many injured in Tel Aviv tourist hotspot shooting. The Telegraph, Israeli medics say 6 wounded in downtown Tel Aviv shooting. UN votes to suspend Russia from Human Rights Council over war in Ukraine. The Independent, you don't resign after you're fired. Russia quits Human Rights Council after suspension. Guardian News, is Russia's suspension from the UN Human Rights Council significant? ITV News, Ukraine war, Russia suspended from United Nations Human Rights Council following invasion. Sky News, Russia suspended from Human Rights Council after UN General Assembly vote. DHL cargo plane splits in two after crash landing at Costa Rica airport. The Guardian, DHL cargo jet breaks in half while making emergency landing at Costa Rican airport. The Independent, DHL jet skids off runway, breaks in two after emergency landing. Bloomberg, incredible escape, DHL plane crashes, skids off runway in Costa Rica, video. The Guardian, cargo jet skids off runway in Costa Rica, splits in half. Ukraine war, Russia living in a parallel universe and peddling catalogue of lies, say critics after Peskov interview. Sky News, Russia admits it has suffered significant losses after invading Ukraine. The Independent, Russia finally admits to significant losses of troops in war against Ukraine. The Telegraph, Ukraine war, Putin's spokesman Dmitry Peskov denies war crimes but admits significant Russian losses. Sky News, Russia laments tragedy of troop deaths as Ukraine braces for offensive. Biden News, Live, Psaki slams Greg Abbott's migrant bus, stunt, as Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed to SCOTUS. The Independent, Ketanji Brown Jackson makes history as first black woman confirmed to U.S. Supreme Court. The Guardian, Ketanji Brown Jackson confirmed as the first black woman to sit on U.S. Supreme Court. Sky News, Ketanji Brown Jackson should never have downplayed her work with Guantanamo Bay inmates. Russia laments tragedy of troop deaths as Zelenskiy warns of atrocities in Borodyanka. The Guardian, Ukraine war, destruction in Borodyanka significantly more dreadful than war-torn Bucha, says Zelenskiy. Sky News, Russian atrocities in Borodyanka much worse than Bucha, says Zelenskiy. The Times, Ukraine braces for a renewed Russian offensive on its eastern front, as it happened. The Guardian, Ukraine's Zelenskiy warns situation in Borodyanka is significantly more dreadful than in Bucha. This was all for the news. Thanks for listening. Please do not forget to like and subscribe.